The world is rallying behind peace as the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia continues to shape global politics. The divergence in approach between the United States and the European Union has influenced the strategies of other nations in addressing the situation. Following the US decision to scale back military assistance to Ukraine, the European Union swiftly took action. In London, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, after a tense meeting with former US President Donald Trump, found reassurance at a summit led by UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. During the event, the UK pledged $2 billion for Ukraine to procure 5,000 air defense missiles. Additionally, the UK announced a $2.8 billion loan backed by frozen Russian assets, further solidifying its support for Ukraine. Meanwhile, the EU revealed plans to allocate a staggering $800 billion towards strengthening its defense capabilities and assisting Ukraine. Scandinavian countries also stepped up, with Norway declaring one of the most significant aid packages in history. The Oslo government committed a portion of its $1.7 trillion sovereign wealth fund to Ukraine, setting a precedent for military support among global allies. The EU summit in London underscored this collective effort, prompting Canada to re-evaluate its stance on the conflict as Russia's threats loomed over Europe. Following the US withdrawal of military support, Canada responded decisively. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau emphasized Canada's unwavering commitment to Ukraine, stating that the country would continue its assistance for as long as necessary. Trudeau launched this initiative by asserting that any agreement to end Moscow's offensive could not be taken at face value. As European leaders began formulating strategies to rely less on Washington, Canada emerged as a pivotal player in securing the continent's stability. This shift highlights the extent of Canada's involvement in Ukraine and how it has alleviated the EU's burden. At the Securing the Future summit in London, hosted by UK Prime Minister Starmer, Trudeau reaffirmed Canada's dedication to Ukraine. The event gathered NATO and Euro-Atlantic leaders to discuss collective security and unity in the face of Russian aggression. Trudeau announced new sanctions targeting 10 individuals and 21 entities, including paramilitary groups aiding Russia. To date, Canada has imposed sanctions on over 3,000 individuals and organizations complicit in supporting Moscow's objectives. Working alongside EU partners, Canada has played a vital role in tightening economic pressure on Russia. During discussions at the summit, world leaders agreed that sustainable peace in Europe could not be achieved without ensuring Ukraine's security. They emphasized that any resolution to the conflict must involve Ukraine at the negotiation table and incorporate robust security assurances. Trudeau stressed that strengthening Ukraine's defense and stability within the Euro-Atlantic region remains a top priority for Canada, especially as it holds the G7 presidency. Since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022, Canada has provided nearly $20 billion in multifaceted aid, ranging from military equipment to financial and humanitarian support. As part of this package, Canada pledged $122.4 billion in direct financial assistance, making it the highest per capita contributor among G7 nations. Military aid exceeding $4.5 billion included M777 howitzers, Leopard 2 battle tanks, armored vehicles, ammunition, drone technology, and thermal gear. An additional $585 million was allocated for development efforts, particularly in bolstering Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Humanitarian assistance reached $372 million, covering emergency medical aid, shelter, and essential services like food and water. Furthermore, $225 million was dedicated to security and stabilization initiatives. Canada also began implementing its $5 billion contribution to the G7's Extraordinary Revenue Acceleration Loans, a mechanism launched in Italy to provide Ukraine with approximately $50 billion in funding through frozen Russian sovereign assets. Trudeau and Zelensky cemented this strategic alliance in February 2024 by signing a landmark security cooperation agreement, ensuring $3.02 billion in financial and military support for the year. Canada's involvement extends beyond monetary aid. Canadian Armed Forces personnel have been instrumental in training over 44,000 Ukrainian soldiers through Operation Unifier since 2015. Trudeau has consistently highlighted the need to hold Russia accountable for violations of international law, including war crimes. Canada's strong stance against Russian aggression is not new. In the fall 2024 economic statement, the government proposed legislative changes to redirect profits from frozen Russian assets toward Ukraine's reconstruction efforts. Since the war began, Canada has welcomed over 220,000 Ukrainian refugees, offering financial assistance, language training, and employment services to facilitate their transition. Canada and Ukraine share deep-rooted ties. In 1991, Canada became the first Western nation to recognize Ukraine's independence. Today, over 1.3 million people of Ukrainian descent reside in Canada. Beyond humanitarian support, economic relations between the two nations have flourished. The Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement, CUFTA, was initially signed in 2016 and came into force in 2017, eliminating tariffs on 86% of Canadian exports to Ukraine. Although an update to the agreement was delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic and Russia's invasion, both countries resumed negotiations in 2022 and finalized new terms in record time. In September 2023, Trudeau and Zelensky signed the modernized CUFTA, further strengthening trade relations. Despite Canada's extensive support, the question remains: will it send troops to Ukraine? When asked whether Canada would deploy military personnel, Trudeau did not rule out the possibility, emphasizing that all options remain open. His response reflected the growing uncertainty in global security dynamics and reinforced Canada's commitment to assisting Ukraine in every possible way. While Canada has yet to announce troop deployments, the possibility remains on the table. Apart from direct military aid, Canada has imposed severe sanctions on Russia. Following similar measures by the EU, Australia, and the UK, Ottawa expanded its sanctions list, targeting over 70 individuals and companies, along with 109 vessels linked to Russia's clandestine oil trade. Among them, 92 oil tankers, 9 liquefied natural gas carriers, and 8 ships allegedly transporting weapons from Iran and North Korea were affected. Senior Russian officials, oligarchs, and entities supporting the Kremlin's propaganda and military-industrial complex were also sanctioned. One of the most striking aspects of Canada's sanctions is their direct impact on Putin's inner circle. High-profile individuals, including Anna Tikhonova, the niece of the Russian president, and Deputy Defense Minister Dmitry Loganov's family members, were targeted. The sanctions extended to Russian aerospace and chemical defense forces, as well as the Kadyrov Foundation, a key supporter of Moscow's activities in Ukraine. Additionally, Russian journalists, propagandists, and business elites were included in Canada's latest measures. The Ukrainian leadership welcomed Canada's continued support. Zelensky expressed gratitude for the training of Ukrainian troops and Canada's assistance in acquiring advanced optical technology for drone operations. Despite wavering US support, European nations remain steadfast in backing Ukraine, ensuring it retains its territorial integrity. Canada's commitment to this cause has solidified its position as a key ally. Moreover, Canada aligns with European efforts to integrate Ukraine into NATO. While many EU leaders advocate for Kyiv's NATO membership, Canada has reinforced its endorsement. Trudeau has repeatedly called for Ukraine's inclusion in the alliance, a move seen as a testament to Canada's sincerity in backing Ukraine's security interests. Ottawa remains one of Ukraine's most vocal supporters on the global stage, advocating for Russian accountability in various international forums. Canada ranks among the top 5 contributors to Ukraine, as highlighted by the Kiel Institute's Ukraine Support Tracker. Despite criticism over delays in delivering military equipment, Canada's recent aid initiatives and sanctions have strengthened its stance against Russian aggression. Analysts predict that Canada's position on Ukraine will remain steadfast, regardless of future political shifts. Prominent figures, including Liberal leadership contender Mark Carney and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, have affirmed their commitment to supporting Ukraine. As Canada diverges from US policies on Ukraine, it continues to align itself closely with the EU's approach. Through military, economic, and humanitarian aid, Ottawa remains a formidable force against Russia's aggression. Simultaneously, Canada's heavy sanctions aim to cripple Putin's war efforts, reinforcing its dedication to Ukraine's sovereignty. These strategic moves provide crucial relief for the EU, ensuring that collective Western support for Ukraine remains unwavering.